It's also a reminder never for us to think that we dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, that we got here all by ourselves. Second Baptist, we did not get to Broad Rock right now. And guess what? Broad Rock won't be the last spot. Amen. God has bigger than Broad Rock. I'm trying to help you. Amen. For some folk didn't think God had bigger than 105 East Pilkington Street. And now some folk don't think God has bigger than 3300 Broad Rock, but I'm here to let you know, mark my words, October 27, 2019, God has bigger than Broad Rock. Amen. But that's not the point here is that we can't get arrogant. We can't get conceited. We have to realize that we come this far by faith. We stand on the shoulders of those who have brought us this far, amen, who labored in Sunday school, labored in transportation, labored as deacons, labored as trustees, labored as superintendents, labored as choir members, labored as ushers. They labored so that we can be here. And if their faith on top of their grandparents' faith and our faith, we're going to continue to do great things for the Lord. But we can't think that we did it ourselves. We can't, no. It was God that did that thing. It was God that lifted us up. It was God that elevated us. It is God that will continue to elevate us. It's God that will continue to lift us. It is not based on ourselves. So never get it in yourself that it's because of you. Never get it in your mind that it was your ideas and your plans and your desires and your organization. If God wasn't in it, if God didn't do it, it would not be done. So when he looks at his life, he realizes God's favor. God was faithful with his favor. He'd answered prayers. He watched over me. It was God that did it, because God lifts up the lowly, but he brings down the proud. That's a reminder for us not to get conceited or arrogant. And then he goes this last, and he said, so that's the past. Then he goes to the present. He says, though I walk in the midst of trouble, that's present tense. Everything else was past tense. Now it's the present tense. He said, though I walk in the midst of trouble, you preserve my life. So he said, okay, I look back, I'm bold, I'm encouraged, I'm strengthened, because when I look back, God's been faithful. When I look back, he answered prayers. When I look back, he was watching over me. It was him that lifted me. I didn't lift myself. It was God that lifted us. Amen. But now when I'm looking in my present, I realize here the psalmist is saying he's in trouble. He's in some difficulty, but he's got good news. God is walking with him. Y'all missed that. That was a shout, because somebody's in trouble right now, but I got good news. You're not there by yourself. Amen. Amen. And okay, y'all not shouting like you should shout, because the reality is somebody's going through something now. I've got good news for you, baby. You're not in it by yourself. God is right there with you. I know you feel like holding your head down. God says, lift your head. The psalmist said, let him be the lifter of your soul. Lift up your head and look to the Lord. Let the Lord shine his countenance on you. Be encouraged, my brother. You are not walking this thing by yourself. There's some times in my own life where I get discouraged. There's some times in my own life where I question what I'm doing. But God reminds me, brother, I didn't bring you this far to leave you. You walk with me. Look, I'm trying to help somebody today. The psalmist said, though he walked with me, I'm in trouble, the Lord is right there with me. He uses a term called preserve. That means to help keep something. On yesterday, my wife was reminding me that we, for years, 10 years at our home, my sister-in-law lived with us, Marvis, and she went on to be with the Lord. It would have been 2 years on yesterday, am I correct? 2 years on yesterday, but she passed away that morning. But also another sister at our church passed away almost similar at the same time that morning, Sister Rosalie Bradley. And Sister Bradley, I would go over to her house before she got sick, and she lived right around the corner from Hobson's Lodge, and she had a house, and in the backyard, Mrs. Bradley can grow anything. She could grow anything, all sorts of fruit trees, all sorts of stuff in her house. And she had a little shed. It was a damp shed. A shed didn't have any light, and it was kind of dark in there. And in that shed, she pulled out some cans and some jars. I know what I'm talking about, some mason jars. And so she grew strawberries, pears, and peaches. But if you know anything about pears, peaches, and strawberries and apples, they have a season, and the way to extend their season is to preserve them. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Young folk, we call it jam and jelly, amen, because strawberries are not always in season, and apples are not always in season, and pears are not always in season. And so in order to have a pear in the middle of the winter, in order to have some strawberry in the middle of the winter, you got to have it in some jam or some jelly. The old folk call that preserve. And what it did was it allowed the the strawberries, the pears, and the peaches, and the apples to keep a little while longer. And here the psalmist said, the Lord, you have preserved me. What is he saying? I should be exposed by this moment. I should have been crushed by this moment. I should have been gone by this moment. But the Lord, you kept me. In order to make the apples last, you got to put a preserve preservative in the apples and mix the apples up with some preservatives and then can it real tight and it will keep. And beloved, can I help you here? God is preserving us. He has poured his spirit in us. We should be dead and gone, but we're still here. We should have been crushed, but we're still here. We should have been defeated, but we're still here. The psalmist said, I'm not here based on my own strength. I should have been expired by this moment, but God has preserved me. He's keeping me right now. Oh, I should have get a better shout than that, because some of you, be honest, you're not here on your own strength. You're not here on your own power. The Lord right now is preserving you. And then he says, with one hand you're holding back my enemies. And with the other, he says, so not only is he preserving you right now, he's fighting your battles. There's a battle that God is fighting for you. You don't have to fight every battle. See, somebody are dealing with some stuff on your jobs. Guess what? Even on your job, you don't have to fight every battle. The psalmist says he's not only walking with me, preserving me, but he's fighting. He's taking care of my enemies. I like the way he says, he said, you stretch out your hand against the anger of my foes. He's fighting your battles right now with one hand. He's giving a picture of God is spirit, but he's using an idea of God being like a person with hands. And he said, with one hand, God is holding back your enemy. That's a shout right there. Because the reality is sometimes you want to fight it yourself, and God says, nope, don't say nothing. Keep your mouth shut. I will handle it. I will take care of that. You just, amen, let me fight all your battles, amen. Because sometimes God don't want you fighting the battle. You'll mess it up. Sometimes you need to be quiet and still and let the Lord fight every one of your battles. But then it says with the other hand, the right hand, the hand of symbol of covenant and contract and commitment, the right hand, the symbol of fellowship. He says with the right hand, he saves me. Now, I almost missed it, but it specifically highlights the right hand. That was a hand that you made a covenant with, a hand you made a contract with, a hand someone committed it to you. And here, what is it saying there? God has committed to lifting me. God has committed to saving me. God has committed himself to delivering me. Okay, hold on now. Some of us aren't even committed to saving ourselves. Some of us aren't even committed to helping ourselves. But I got good news for you. Even when you're not committed, God is committed. And the psalmist said, he's holding back my enemies with one hand, but with the other hand, he's lifting me up. Now, in my own strength, I can only do one at a time, but I'm glad that God can do more than one thing at a time. He can bless you and me at the same time. He can fight your battle and deliver somebody else. He can fight your battle and help that sister over there. The good news is God can handle. He's fighting your battles.